Well, good morning, everybody, and I'm sorry this report's a little bit late, but last night I think it was these storms rolling right here through parts of Illinois late last night that have given me the delays this morning. I've lost internet connectivity. It took me about 3 hours to get everything up and running this morning, so we're a little late and I apologize for that. But these storms really just illustrate the pattern we've seen here over the last few days, which is changing considerably now that we've gotten our way into the middle of this week. And this is where we're going. So to kind of piggyback on what we discussed in last night's in-depth analysis, we can see that over the next 10 days, a very large ridge is going to be building into the western United States. So the pattern is highly amplified and does something like that for several days. And the presence of this ridge is really going to affect how tropical systems evolve. It's going to affect how the heat builds into the western United States. It's going to affect the drier weather that's here in the midsection of the country. And we're curious as to how long this is going to last, because there is some evidence that once we get out, into that first full week of September, possibly right at the very end of it, we'll start to see a bit of a shift in this. And it'll be the movement of this trough that I think will be key in that. But as it stands, the next 10 days of precipitation anomalies, most of the west, getting into the Canadian prairie, and then coming into the central United States will be relatively dry. There will be storm systems that curl up into the Hudson Bay. Want to leave a front later this week that could initiate some storms here, which we saw last night ripping through this area, or yesterday, ripping through this area, producing a lot of severe weather. But our next chance wouldn't be until this weekend. But you notice from Texas and the lower Mississippi River Valley and even parts of the Northeast, where today we're watching for some stronger storms, we're going to see quite a bit of moisture in this area. And remember, parts of Louisiana and Mississippi are currently having their wettest August on record, and they're likely going to finish it that way. Real quick in the tropics, just to provide an update, the two systems we're watching, this one's got an 80% chance of developing, this one has a 40%. Just due to the same reasons we discussed last night, the systems are expected to make the turn and not affect the United States at this point. So we're continuing to see that in this morning's model runs. Just wanted to bring you up to speed. But again, last night's rains, actually this is the last 3 days worth of rain. You can tell that much of the midsection of the country, the Midwest, which is what I'm circling here, has seen some locally very heavy rainfall. We've also seen some bigger storms in the south and some very impressive storms that have come out of parts of Texas, several of which have been producing large dust storms. I included a couple of pictures and videos in today's report. Just a quick recap, though. Yesterday's storm system did produce over 200 reports of severe wind damage here, and today I'm kind of looking to see if that did much damage to the crop in parts of Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, and getting up here into parts of New York as well. But scattered throughout that boundary, that frontal boundary all the way back to Texas, more reports kind of added up. So where we're watching this go today, let's use this morning's high-res NAM run. You notice that through this evening, that front clears parts of New England, and this is where we're going to keep an eye on, really from North Carolina through Virginia into Pennsylvania, New York. That's going to be the area I'll watch most carefully for those strong to severe storms. After that front clears, you'll see this lingering boundary sitting through here, such that into Wednesday and even into Thursday, we're going to see storms on this boundary, many of which are hitting parts of Texas. And that's going to be an important factor to be watching here, because Texas, after enduring near historic drought, has now had extremely heavy rainfall, which we've been covering, and we're expecting more of it. Take a look at what the high-res European model's showing. So that's through Wednesday, and after that, there's going to be several large high-pressure systems moving through the midsection of the country as the west really heats up. And as we go into Thursday and Friday, see this little wave here? That one sneaks through the northern part of the Canadian prairie and drops a front Friday right in through here, which means we could see some storms right along that boundary Friday night. But this entire time, plenty of Gulf moisture coming in to fuel storms along the Gulf Coast and into Texas. And as we work our way into the weekend, that frontal boundary might stall out there and then line itself up with flow coming out of the Gulf by the time we get into Saturday, Sunday. And what's going to happen here is with high pressure off the coast, we're going to push this moisture in. The frontal boundary lingers there, and we're going to see that moisture getting pulled into that frontal boundary, adding better chances for rainfall from the lower Mississippi River Valley into parts of the Tennessee and Ohio Valley. Meanwhile, this whole area to the south stays quite wet. And that's why when we look out there, even into week 2, we see that wetter signal. But just to branch this out for a 15-day map, much drier conditions here, very wet across the south, mid-south, parts of the mid-south, and into the southeast. Okay, we take a look at that, and we go from there into where the pattern ends up. And I left this on the day 10 forecast because this is going to be a big question mark. See that trough coming to the northwest? Before that comes in there, look at this. just massive ridges throughout this week continue to build across the western United States, and that's what gives us that dominant flow like this. So we're questioning if the models are just showing too much spread or if there really will be a progression of this pattern by the time we get through the first full week of September. Until then, though, I'll just say this, the temperatures in the west are going to be really, really hot. Now, what's interesting is model performance is really good right now at matching the heights. I mean, it's up here, the highest I've seen it in months. So I'm going to have to just watch this to see if that continues as we go forward. So what does it do to our temperatures? We see that today's highs very hot across the west coast, even hotter and more expansive tomorrow. And then as we get into Thursday, some of that heat moves right here into the northern plains. Triple-digit heat possible in the northern plains. Hundreds throughout California, Central Valley, a lot of upper 90s, low 100s in the northwest. So now into Friday, it's Saturday, and Sunday. While the pattern fluctuates in the northern plains, the heat just stays on across the west. And that's going to stay that way into Monday of next week as well. The models, when we look out there longer term, just watch this animation through the first full week of September. And then getting out there into that second week. Do you see how things start to fade? We don't know if that's necessarily a signal that the temperature pattern is going to relax or if it's model spread. I really think it's just the ability to not pick up on the way the pattern is going to evolve. Could we point the finger at that tropical system, that typhoon near Japan? We could, but I still think there is uncertainty coming from other sources. I'll point this out in my report today. We're going to look out and just keep assessing what we think this mid-September to mid-October pattern is going to look like. Because currently it's very La Nina looking, but I don't have a lot of confidence in this verifying. And I kind of cover that in a report today and give you kind of the main caveats. And one of the big ones is going to be if La Nina maintains its dominance, not only through this fall time period, but going into winter. All of that's covered in last night's in-depth video and also in today's report. So I hope you find it informative here. Tomorrow, I'm going to talk a lot about South America, so we'll cover that in tomorrow's report. Have a good rest of your day. I'll talk to you then. Thanks.